We recently covered the best gold bullion plans in Fallout 76, and a lot of you in the comments brought up everyone's favorite stamp plans. So today I thought it was only fitting to go over the best stamp plans you should 100% grab no matter your playstyle in Fallout 76. Obviously, before we dive into the actual plans, I quickly wanted to go over how you could actually get stamps for yourself. Don't worry, it's extremely easy and extremely straightforward. It's just a little grindy if you're new to it. So the first way is through the season scoreboards. This is going to be the non-efficient way of gaining stamps because you can't really get that many and it is somewhat costly. Now you could spend your hard-earned tickets that you've gotten throughout the season on stamps here and there. It's not the biggest payout in the world, but it's basically free and super useful if you're just a few stamps short. Plus you do have to purchase a certain amount of items to get to the last repeatable page in whatever season you're participating in when you watch this video. So if you have to spend the tickets anyway, you might as well spend them on some stamps. And again, if you're only, 20 short here or there, you should be able to make up that difference through the season scoreboards. But obviously, that's not the main way of getting stamps. The main way that you'll be farming stamps is going to be through the somewhat difficult, not really, expeditions. Now, I say somewhat difficult because if you're level 30, you may have a hard time, but if you're level 55, you really could go in to any expedition and do great. But they're basically, if you don't know what they are, they're super short missions that usually take only around 7 to 10 minutes each. Both of them are in different areas of the map, really. One of them's at the pit, and then the other one's in Atlantic City. Now, personally, I recommend running the Atlantic City expedition, the most sensational game. It's quick, super easy, and gives you 15 stamps per run if you do all of these side objectives, like collect the teddy bear and kill a certain amount of showmen and everything like that. But that's a pretty solid rate, even if it takes some grinding to get everything you want. So obviously, yeah, expeditions are going to be your bread and butter for stamps, and if you're just short a couple here and there, check the season scoreboard to finish it off so you don't have to run more expeditions. But if you're like me and if you farmed expeditions so much when they first came out because one, you wanted more legendaries, and two, they were the best way to get XP for a while, you're full on stamps. However, if you haven't touched expeditions, I highly suggest you do. At first, they're a little daunting, but seriously, they're really easy. The only thing that you have to worry about is if your console crashes. So if you're on PC, you will have some better luck. If you're on Xbox, just be careful if you're running the most sensational game. If you're going too quick towards the end, it can crash your console, so just keep that in mind. However, every 7 to 10 minutes, you'll walk away with 15 stamps. You could even get it down to 5 minutes, so every 5 minutes, you'll walk away with 15 stamps. Not that bad of a rate, however, still grindy if you need a couple hundred stamps per item. All right, enough time wasting. Let's kick things off. Now, I wanted to kind of pick a few different items from kind of like every single class. So there's some armor plans in here, there's some weapon plans, and then there's going to be some camp plans and miscellaneous items as well. So let's start off with the weapons, considering some of the best weapons in the entire game are locked behind the stamp paywall. So first off, we gotta start with one of probably the best weapons in its class, if arguably the best weapon in its class, and that is going to be the Cold Shoulder. Now, it's going to be one of the best shotguns in the entire game. I know you may argue that the Gauss shotgun is better, but in terms of DPS, the Cold Shoulder is the king of shotguns in Fallout 76, at least as of the most recent update. Now, if you don't know the Cold Shoulder, it's a double barrel shotgun that always comes with the quad effect. It deals 50% more damage to all cryptids. And finally, it's cryo, so it freezes enemies with every single shot. So that means that it's great for mobbing, it's great for bossing, it's great for taking down big enemies, and it's great for taking down a bunch of small enemies, considering that you'll have a quad magazine and everything will freeze once you tag it. Now, obviously, it can be obtained from Giuseppe, the only stamp vendor in the entire game, and he's going to be located in White Springs. Now, he's going to sell this plan for a measly 500 stamps, which for the best shotgun in the entire game is very well worth it in my opinion. Obviously, you could get the Gauss shotgun with some gold, but if you have a bunch of stamps burning a hole in your pocket, this Cold Shoulder may be the pick for you. If you want to run a shotgun build, this thing is a must-have, especially for bossing. Even if you don't plan on it, just buy the Cold Shoulder and play around with it. I promise you, you'll thank me later. This is a powerhouse for shotguns, and at the end of the day, it's just a really fun weapon to play around with, which is the most important thing considering this is a video game. Now that the cold shoulder is out of the way, we can move on to probably the best stamp plan in the entire game, or at least the best weapon stamp plan in the entire game. You already know what it is if you've been around the block a few times. It's the best melee weapon in the whole game, the one, the only, the auto axe. That's right, if you're a melee build, this thing is by far the biggest must-have in the whole game. If you don't know, the auto axe is an automatic melee weapon similar to the chainsaw, but it's much faster than the chainsaw, which means more DPS. This thing is pretty much like one of the top 3 weapons in the entire game, and in terms of the melee category, it is by far the best melee weapon in the entire game. This weapon with no build can destroy pretty much every single mob and most bosses besides the raid boss. You're going to want a build for that, but again, this thing melts literally the snake boss, the first robot boss. It does not matter. The auto axe is going to be probably the best overall weapon in the entire game. It's stupidly overpowered no matter what nerfs they bring out. And again, if you do run a melee build, this is one of the things you should grind after in the whole game. Obviously, the chainsaw is okay, but the auto axe is just able to double the DPS for only a few stamps, which in my opinion is well worth the grind. And obviously, if you didn't know, this is probably going to be the best way to run West deck now after the grenade nerf. Literally just get an auto axe, throw whatever mod you want on it, bloodied, and then, some intelligence boost or whatever on there, and then just run around and instant kill all of the super mutants, and there you go. That's the best way to level up through the seasons in Fallout 76 now, because the grenades have been nerfed without doing the raid. Now, obviously, just like all of the other lists, or all of the other items on this list, this item can be obtained from Giuseppe, the one stamp vendor in the whole game at White Spring, for a well worth it 500 stamps. I did also just want to mention that both the cold shoulder and the auto axe can be purchased through the Atomic Shop for some atoms each if you don't want to spend the few hours grinding out stamps, but I do not suggest you do this because you could just spend a few hours grinding out 1,000 stamps, and then boom, you have both of your needed weapons. Not really too difficult. However, though, if you had to pick one of them, go with the auto axe. 500 stamps, you have the best melee weapon in the entire game. I would say that's extremely well worth it. For the last weapon on the list, I wanted to quickly mention one of the more gimmicky weapons that you could buy with stamps. It's no auto axe or cold shoulder, and you're probably not going to get much actual use out of it, but I'm talking about the Headhunter Scythe. Now, personally, it's probably one of the better looking weapons in the entire game. However, it's not the best, but I hear what you're saying. Why would I buy the Headhunter Scythe when I could use the auto axe to kill any enemy I need? And I completely agree. However, there are a couple of small reasons you may want to consider this if you're a melee main, or just if you're eventually going to become a melee main, or if you just want some caps eventually in the future. Firstly, for some broken reason, the Headhunter Scythe actually has more range on it than any melee weapon in the game, and if you have a melee build, you could probably get this thing to one-shot, so you could kind of kill enemies a little further away than with the auto axe. However, auto axe is probably still going to be more efficient because you're not going to be able to one-shot every single enemy in the entire game with this, like with the auto axe. Secondly, it has a pretty good dot effect that poisons enemy, which again is great for bossing to put some extra damage on them while your other teammates are actually doing more work than you. But Bethesda is always buffing damage over time and poison specifically, so this weapon may become fully broken one day. But my opinion, the main draw of this weapon is the fact that it's one of the few, or not one of the few, but it's one of the items that you could actually buy and then craft over and over and over again and scrap with the intention to get mods. Now, this scythe comes stock with assassins, melee speed increase, and lightweight. So lightweight, not really the best. Assassins is pretty good if you're running a stealth build. However, you can argue that bloodied is just superior, which is completely fair. The real showstopper here is the melee speed, which in fact does work on the auto axe, which can make it stronger, or a chainsaw, or any other melee weapon. Now, in my opinion, I would spend some stamps to get the melee speed increase on pretty much all of my melee weapons, but that's just me. It's a stupidly easy guaranteed way to get the melee speed mod, which will increase your DPS to just really insane levels. And then just like all the other plans on this list, the Headhunter Scythe can be obtained from Giuseppe, the one and only stamp vendor in the game at White Springs, for 500 stamps. Now, are those 500 stamps worth the increased melee speed? You let me know in the comments. But that's going to do it in terms of weapon weapons that are locked behind the stamp paywall. Again, if you're a ranged user, do yourself a favor, get your hands on the Cold Shoulder. It's so much fun to use, and you could fit it inside of most builds now, since they updated all of the perks and everything like that. But unless you're a heavy main, if you're a melee player, get the auto axe. It's literally the best melee weapon in the entire game, and it's probably the most important stamp plan that they have in the entire game. And then finally, if you still are chasing some mods, especially the melee speed mod, the Headhunter Scythe is a great way to guarantee that as a drop. You're just going to have to go out, spin the stamps, and then craft maybe 100 of them before you get the plan for the mod. But that's going to do it for weapons. Now that we touched on the weapons you should grab no matter the playstyle, let's talk about the amazing sets of armor that you could get with stamps. And I promise this right here is the bread and butter for all players, regardless of level, playstyle, or build. You're going to want to get pretty much both of the things that I'm going to talk about here in 1 second. But firstly, you're definitely going to want to get this item. Now, there's really only one full armor set that you could get with stamps, and that you need to get with stamps, I should say, regardless of the playstyle. And most of you probably could have guessed and are confused on why I didn't start with this, but it's going to be the Union Power Armor, which is arguably the best power armor in the game, depending on your needs. For me and most endgame players, they'll rock the Union Power Armor, but the base level 50 armor gives a nice 485 DR, which is decent, not as good as the T65, but still great. And on top of that, it offers insane poison resistance, which is a must-have for the raid if you've been struggling, because you pretty much negate 90% of the damage that is done to you in the raid, besides the first robot. That's pretty much the only stage that you don't have to worry about with dealing with poison. But in my opinion, the biggest plus to wearing a full set of the Union Power Armor has to be a staggering plus 75 carry weight that you get when you're wearing it, which is just so helpful if you're a hoarder like me. And obviously, as you could have guessed by now, the Union Power Armor can be obtained from Giuseppe, the only stamp vendor in the game, for a total of 720 stamps. Now, there are 6 pieces of armor, 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 chest, and 1 head. Each one will cost you 120 stamps, so it's pretty expensive, but it's worth it. It's the best power armor in the game, in my opinion. I would put this and the auto axe as the 2 must-haves out of the whole entire stamp plans. Seriously, grind the expeditions and save up for that beautiful, beautiful set of armor. With this, you'll basically be able to take down any content in the entire game, and also you'll have a bunch of extra carry weight, which is just so helpful if you're going to be out there exploring the wasteland. Of course, before we move on from the Union Power Armor, I also wanted to mention that you could get all of the mods from the Union Power Armor for stamps as well. They range in price, but they could range from 20 stamps all the way up to 300 stamps, which you're going to see is pretty common for stamp plans. I highly suggest, though, you get the Calibrated Shocks mod from Giuseppe for 50 stamps. That will increase your carry weight even further while being inside of the power armor. So if you want to be an unkillable pack rat, this is the armor for you. Plus the Calibrated Shocks, you'll have a bunch of extra carry weight that you'll be able to take advantage of whenever you're out in the wasteland. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you want to get all of the plans for this, including the mods, it's going to cost you a bunch of stamps. However, really the only needed mod is going to be the Calibrated Shocks, 50, or you could get the jetpack as well for 300 stamps. So just keep that in mind as well. You could add to the total of 720 stamps if you wanted to get some mods. However, Calibrated Shocks and all of the mods for the actual armor itself, only 770 stamps, which isn't too bad. Less than 1,000 for basically the best armor in the entire game. Next up, to end the armor section, isn't really a set of armor, but it's going to be all of the mods for the Civil Engineer armor, which is arguably, again, the best armor in the whole game. Well, let me expand on that. It's the best light armor in the game, arguably. A lot of people fight between this and the Secret Service. If you don't know, the Secret Service can be gotten with gold. Go and check out the last gold video. Or the Civil Engineer can be gotten with stamps. They're pretty equal. Some people prefer the Civil Engineer. Some people prefer the Secret Service just because of how versatile the Secret Service is. However, in terms of stamps, all of the civil engineer mods can be gotten with stamps. So just keep that in mind. If you do want to get the civil engineer armor itself, you will have to complete the Atlantic City storyline, and you can get it for free. You just have to spend stamps on those beautiful mods. It offers amazing protection and fire resistance, so if you need an easy endgame armor, this is one of the best options out there for you. It's a light armor also, so it's perfect if you use dodge. So yes, all of these civil engineer mods can be attained from Giuseppe, the only stamp vendor in the game, at White Springs, and they can range in price from 20 stamps all the way up to 300, just like the Union Power Armor. Personally, I suggest you get at least the Deep Pocket mod for a silly 40 stamps each. So you'll have to get them for the legs and then also for the arms, so you're going to spend 80 stamps on that total, and then also the jetpack for a well worth it 300 stamps, so you could get significantly better movement while you're fighting mobs. And then obviously on top of that, also the Civil Engineer Under Armor is only 50 stamps. This isn't a mod for the armor, but you could just grab the Under Armor. It offers actual protection depending on what you need, and it also offers an additional increase to your special stats. It increases your strength, endurance, and perception depending on what type of lining you put on it, so just keep that in mind. If you do need a boost to any of those three things, this is an easy way to grab like an extra point here or there. It's not the most in the entire world, but for 50 stamps, you can't really go wrong. So that's the weapon and the armor category for these stamp plans. Now, I just kind of wanted to throw in some honorable mentions that aren't really for everybody, or that just aren't really that important, but they are really nice. Firstly, I need to mention the Bobblehead boxes. These are must-have for any players for a few reasons. Firstly, this is a great cheap way to maximize your leader Bobblehead supply, which will grant the player more XP. So if you want a nice way to get those without really having to go and search around the wasteland, you can just go ahead, grind up some stamps, buy these every single day, and then boom, there you go, you'll have a nice little stockpile. But more importantly, bobbleheads are needed for legendary crafting now, so instead of hunting them down, watching guide videos, waiting for them to refresh on the servers and everything, you could just buy these and then just stockpile a bunch of random ones every single day, and then just keep them in your stash, and then whenever you need to go and create an intelligence mod, you'll use one of the leader bobbleheads from your stash that you've gotten from the mystery boxes, and they're not really expensive either, so this is kind of a no-brainer for everyone. At least I would buy like one of these a day if you're going to get into legendary crafting soon, or just if you want to stock up on them. I would definitely buy one of these a day, considering that you'll only have to run like 2 expeditions and then you'll be able to pay for them. But the mystery bobbleheads can be gotten from Giuseppe, the only stamp vendor in the game, at White Springs, and it'll only cost you 20 stamps. The bad part is that you can only grab 6 of these per day, costing 120 stamps total. So if you do need to stock up on bobbleheads, you're gonna have to spread it out, unfortunately, through these, so you can only get 6 per day, but 6 bobbleheads per day, not too bad. And again, they will be random, unfortunately, so you can't guarantee that it'll be a perception bobblehead or an intelligence bobblehead, but you can at least guarantee that you will get a bobblehead, so just keep that in mind. Again, 20 stamps, run 2 expeditions, take 14 minutes, 15 minutes out of your day, and you will get a bobblehead. There you go. And then the final stamp plan that makes the list is going to be a camp plan, and it's just funny in my opinion because it is actually really useful, but it's just so stupid and it's really specific. But it's the Pittsburgh Industrial Floodlights. Now, this is a camp item that offers no real buff, no real benefits, but it's the best camp light item in the whole game, in my opinion. If you place these things outside of your camp and then have them on, you'll have a perfectly lit camp at nighttime. So it's just kind of a must-have if you plan on decorating your camp, or especially if you plan on going with like a darker theme for your camp so people could at least see. So if you're a camp builder, obviously this is a must-have. Even if you're not a camp builder and you don't even want to place walls, if you want to be able to see at nighttime, just place this thing down and you'll be good to go. You'll literally light up your entire camp if you point it at your camp, or the entire outside of your camp if you point it outside of your camp. So I suggest you get it. The Pittsburgh Industrial Floodlights can be gotten from Giuseppe, the one and only stamp vendor in the game at White Springs, and it'll cost you a somewhat questionably worth it 190 stamps, but you could also luck out and get it from a daily drop while completing expeditions, because you could also get 1 plan per day, just like daily ops. So that's another great way to get it. That's why I'm saying this is an honorable mention. If you are a builder and if you haven't gotten it yet, do yourself a favor, try and get it for the 190 stamps. I would say it's worth it to light up your entire camp. But if you're just like, man, I don't care about that enough, I'm trying to get the power armor, I'm trying to get the auto axe, don't spend the 190 stamps on this. But it is the best light source in the game for your camp. Now, though, if you're a veteran player and you don't really plan on changing your build anytime soon, just do yourself a favor. Make sure you have the auto axe, cold shoulder, and the Union power armor. These are just some of, if not the best items in their class, so make sure you have them. You never know when you're going to need them. I never thought that I was going to do a melee build, and I ended up doing a melee build pretty soon into my Fallout 76 experience, because the auto axe is just so amazing. So just keep that in mind. You'll never know when you're going to want to switch up your build or have to do something for a challenge, or you never know. Bethesda could release a challenge, kill 1,000,000 ghouls with an auto axe, and you get this item, or you get this special skin or something like that. And you're going to want to be able to participate, so just keep that in mind. Well, there we have it, ladies and gents of the Wasteland. We've made it to the end of another Fallout 76 video and another top blank lists. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it useful. Now, if you disagree with this list or think I forgot something, let me know in the comments. I apologize that this was shorter than the gold list. There just aren't that many great stamp plans, and the ones that are great are just so incredibly worth it that it's not even a question of if you should grab it or not. Like, obviously, the auto axe and the Union power armor are must-haves no matter your playstyle. You would be silly not to grab them. So just make sure out of all of these that you grab the auto axe. Everyone goes melee eventually, I promise you. And then also make sure you grab the Union power armor. Again, it's, grind up 2,000 stamps and you'll pretty much be able to get every single piece of gear or a piece of equipment that you can need in the entire game through stamps. So just keep that in mind. But as always, I appreciate you motherfuckers for watching this motherfucking video. I will see you out there in the Wasteland. Good luck grinding out those stamps. Again, hit up as many expeditions as you can, and let me know in the comments if I missed something. What's your favorite stamp plan? Let me know.